If you dread the question, where are you from, this video is for you. If you grew up speaking 2, 3, or even more languages growing up, this video is for you. If you have childhood memories of weird but wonderful food like benku and okra or shashlik and lupyoshka, this video is for you. If you are a survivor of the IB diploma, this video is definitely for you. Welcome! My name is Swai, which is a Vietnamese name. It's not a name actually, it's just a word. It means mango, and I haven't done YouTube in a while, so it's really weird. I'm talking to a camera right now. So I want to give a quick disclaimer just to say that I'm not an expert on third culture kids. Throughout these videos, I'm going to be talking about my personal experience among certain types of third culture kids, and it might not apply to you. So, the book definition of third culture kids is someone who has grown up outside their parents' country. Someone who has spent the majority of their developmental years outside of their parents' culture, outside of their parents' passport country. To expand on that, a third culture kid is someone who moved a lot across different countries and different continents because of their parents' job. Their parents could be from the same country, or they could be of different nationality or of different race. Third culture kids, as I have known them, all go to private schools and usually international schools. Third culture kids, as I've known them, are from a very privileged class. Their parents, or at least their dads, are things like doctors, pilots, diplomats, ambassadors, businessmen, and things like that. So on top of having a pretty upscale job, a high salary, and living in a third world country, you can imagine it creates a pretty high-class lifestyle. I have also come to realize quite recently how westernized and also increasingly Americanized the community of the third culture kid can be. Now that is a subject that's a whole other discussion for another video, but I think it's a really interesting thing to take note of. Now I could go on giving you a lot of definitions and explanations as to what a third culture kid is, but I think the simplest way to start would be to tell you all the countries I've lived in. I was born in Vietnam to a French dad and a Vietnamese mom. After about 6 months, we moved to Namibia, and we stayed there for about 2 years, during which my parents divorced. Afterwards, my dad and I moved to... where did we move to again? We moved to Tianjin, China. We stayed there for a while, and then we moved to Qatar. I lived in Doha, Qatar for about 4 years before moving to Ghana, West Africa, for about 3 years. Then I moved to Uzbekistan, Central Asia, for about 3 years, after which I spent a year in Indonesia, and then I returned to China, but this time in Shanghai, where I graduated from the International Baccalaureate, and then my dad and I moved here. I moved to France, which is where I am right now, in Paris, studying, among other things, applied arts. For those of you who are wondering why France, well, because I'm broke, and because universities here are essentially free, especially if you're a French citizen. So unlike most of my classmates, my dad wasn't a businessman or a diplomat or a doctor or anything like that. My dad was a teacher. I was one of the teacher kids. My dad was a music teacher, and thanks to him, I got to go to private international schools for free. So that was pretty cool. And I am so grateful every day for the education I had. I miss high school so much. I'd say I've met teacher kids in almost every international school. There's always a few of us in each class, so we're not uncommon. And yeah, I have so many examples of third culture kids. There's my friend Kate, who is also a teacher kid. She was born in Burma. She lived in Moscow for a while after that before she moved to Uzbekistan, where we met fatefully. She moved back to Texas for her studies. My friend Nicole is from Mali and Florida. She's lived in places like New Orleans and I think in England, I can't remember, before moving to Uzbekistan, which is where, again, we met fatefully many years later. My friend Clara is British Portuguese, and we also met in Uzbekistan, but she spent a lot of time in Germany and I think England before that. One of my oldest friends, Elke, is from Holland, and she spent some time in Côte d'Ivoire before having to run away during the war. She then went to Ghana, which is where we met and became friends, and still are friends to this day. Honestly, there are so many examples I could give you guys about different kinds of third culture kids I've known all my life. There are so many, and they have such cool stories to tell. There are a lot of things I want to discuss with you guys in future videos about third culture kids, namely about our experiences as third culture kids, our issues with identity and race and relationships and things like that, which I think don't get discussed enough on places like YouTube. And I think there should be. I think, you know, there should be a platform where lots of third culture kids can come together and have this discussion about what our experiences have been. And personally, just in Paris, I know quite a few travelers, quite a few third culture kids, and this would be a great space to have a dialogue, to create content about that. Thank you for listening. I hope with time I'll get used to handling all this camera, video editing, YouTube business. If you happen to be watching this and we're still in the coronavirus confinement, you know, courage. We can all do this. It'll be over at some point, I think. Hopefully. Anyways, stay tuned and I'll see you next time. Bye!